Assalamu alaikum. Hi guys, this is Sarah. Today I wanted to talk about the thing that everybody has been talking about lately in the Muslim community online, and that is about big Muslim hijabi influencers deciding to remove their hijab, how this is becoming a trend, and obviously, the most recent person who has taken off their hijab in, the online sphere is Amena, or Amena, however you pronounce her name. I believe her name is supposed to be pronounced Amena. She recently also changed her channel name. It used to be Amena, and now it is just her name, Amena, or Amena. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I've been a longtime viewer of hers. I believe that I've been watching her since I first converted. So I wanted to talk about how I feel about that for a little bit, and also about this overall trend of people saying that hijabi influencers are taking off their hijab and how it's becoming a thing. So I just wanted to touch on that. By the way, I will be putting a timestamp in the description box below of a few different things that I'm touching on in this video, because I do anticipate that it will be very long, because I have a few different things that I would like to talk about this topic, about Amena and social influencers in general taking off their hijab. So please feel free to look at the timestamps in the description box to see some of the topics that I'm talking about in case you want to skip around. I think Amena is probably one of the biggest YouTubers to date who have taken off the hijab, who were once hijabis. She not only has her own business, which is Pearl Daisy. She has her, very successful YouTube channel. She has also been the face of large brand campaigns. For example, she was in a commercial for L'Oreal. Originally, her channel was very focused on hijab styles. And one of the things that I felt like stood out about her channel compared to some other channels is that the hijab styles tended to be a lot more modest than some styles, because you do notice that like when people want to get into some more styles, they usually start going like shorter and shorter with the front of the scarf, and they'll do turbans. And I want to clarify right now that I actually don't have a problem with those styles. Her styles were a lot more covered than I tend to see a lot of fashion hijab channels doing, and that's not to give a judgment on whether that's good or bad. I'm just saying that that's what it is. And I was actually thinking about how I keep seeing so many social media influencers, I guess you could call them, who, slowly, they start not being hijabis anymore. And I was thinking a couple of weeks ago, that the last person that I would expect to take off their hijab is Amena, because her hijabs have always, in my opinion, stayed consistently at the same level of modesty, And I say that because with a lot of these hijabi influencers that end up taking off their hijab, you see it coming, okay? And anybody who follows a lot of these people will know what I'm talking about, that at first their hijab is like a lot more voluminous, and it's like, maybe covering more of their chest, whatever. Again, that's not a judgment on how you should wear your hijab. I want to clarify right now. I'm not saying that that's better. I'm just saying there's more material and stuff going on, right? And then over time, they start only wearing turban hijabs. It's like, okay, yeah, we're still fine here. And then the turbans start slowly uncovering more stuff. Maybe they start showing their neck, and they weren't showing their neck before. Then they're showing their front part of their hair, and they weren't showing the front part of their hair before. And then they're showing their ears, and they weren't showing their ears before. And then they're like only covering maybe this much of their hair in their bun and nothing else. And then they start wearing hats, and then they are not wearing anything as far as like a scarf or anything on their head. And again, I'm not saying that this style is wrong and this style is right. I'm just saying you see a gradual where there is less and less that is covered, and then there is no hijab. And that's just a trend that you see when you follow these people. And so that's what surprised me the most about Amena, is she, in my opinion, had full hijab up until she didn't. Here's the thing. We are allowed to feel sad as hijabis or people in the Muslim community who believe in hijab about somebody taking off their hijab. It is okay to feel sad. What ventures into not okay is when there is this huge backlash and abuse from the community towards these people who decide to take off their hijab. My opinion on the video is that I was a little bit confused. She never actually gave an exact reason for why she wanted to take her hijab off. She pretty much said, like, yeah, I started wearing my hijab 10 years ago. It was also around the same, I think she said 10 years ago. I think she was saying that it was around the same time that she started making YouTube videos, and that she just started wearing hijab on a whim, and then the other day she decided to take off hijab on a whim. And I was kind of like, I wasn't really sure why she said that, because I know that that decision wasn't on a whim to take off hijab. I can see how somebody would get into hijab, like just trying it, and they're like, why don't I try wearing hijab? Why not? But I think taking it off is so much harder than the decision to put it on. So I was a bit confused on what her reasons were. I think that maybe she didn't want to say what her reasons were because she said that it was just on a whim, but I don't really believe that she just woke up one day as a hijabi and she was like, you know what, today I think I'm going to take hijab off. It's just on a whim. It's just for fun. So, like, and I don't mean to, like, make fun of her decision, but clearly she was uncomfortable. Like, she didn't want to, I don't think she wanted to say what her reasons were. And that's also okay. Like, she's entitled to her privacy. But at the same time, like, people who have been watching her for about a decade, it feels like blindsiding. You kind of want to know, even though it's something that's personal. And obviously in the whole video, she was very uncomfortable. It seemed like she was, you know, jumping around a lot in what she was saying, that she kept apologizing, which made me feel horrible. That she's apologizing to people and stuff like that. It made me feel sad for her that she was feeling so scared to tell people about it. And when you look at the comments section, it's like she had a reason to be worried. There are thousands of comments on that video like, why did you take off your hijab? You're so haram. You're going straight to hell. I have no faith in you. You scammed the Muslim community. Which, by the way, is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So she was, because, okay, think about what these people are saying. People are saying that, oh, you have a hijab company and you made money off of your YouTube channel, you made money off of your hijab company, and that it was all just a scam to get people's money. And it's like, do you really, really think that this woman, who was already a Muslim, decided to put on hijab one day and she was like, you know what would be the best scam? Living as a complete hijabi for 10 years to get everybody to give me money. And it's like, really, guys? Really? Nobody would wear hijab for 10 years in order to scam people into giving them money. And not only that, it's like, do you think that she was just given her brand and that she just was given her videos and that it's like, she didn't put any work into doing any of that kind of stuff? I think that that is the silliest argument I've ever heard in my life. Not even silly, it's vicious. It's a vicious argument. I think that really a lot of these comments are just a way for people to take out their own frustrations and make themselves feel better. Because do you really think, you know, if you look at the video and there's thousands of comments, do you really think that the person who is making the 5,000th comment is going, oh yeah, if only 10,000 people tell Amena that she is going straight to hell for wearing her hijab, then maybe she'll put it back on. Guess what, guys? That's not how it works. That's not how the human psychology works. That's not how people decide to put on hijab. And by the way, that's not how people feel good wearing hijab, because it's like, okay, yeah, now let's say that actually worked, which it doesn't. Now you force somebody back into wearing their hijab, and now they have negative feelings about the religion too. Like, thank you, but that actually didn't help anybody. That made it worse. So somebody having, one sin, if you're saying that hijab is obligatory, somebody having one sin, how is it so much better for everybody else to be completely disgusting and have an absolute lack of compassion towards this person and drive them away from the religion? And now let's say that this person is committing way more sins because they're like, I don't even want to deal with Muslims. Look at how they act. Look at how they are. Is this an expression of being a Muslim? If this is an expression of being Muslim, then why should I be Muslim? And people are like, oh, if somebody acted like this, then they wouldn't have been Muslim in the first place. And it's like, oh, no, we cannot use that as an excuse to act this way towards people. I think that people love using the whole, if you can't take everything that's being dished to you, you shouldn't have been a Muslim in the first place. People like to use that to excuse un-Islamic behavior. These people who are usually saying this are people who are supporting other people being rude, nasty, and uncompassionate to other people. And we also talk about, like, when we're thinking about this is a huge reason why the people who convert to Islam and then leave Islam is because of the actions of the Muslim community. And we're showing all of the deep issues that we have in the Muslim community on these types of videos, where people just cannot help themselves from bringing out their most disgusting thoughts. So how do I feel about this trend, I guess you could say, of Hijabi influencers taking off their hijab? Like I was saying earlier, I keep seeing this more and more. It's becoming more and more of a thing that people who were hijabis and have a very large online presence eventually end up going to less and less hijab, and then one day no hijab. I feel sad about it as a hijabi, because a lot of these people I follow pretty much solely because they're a hijabi, and I know that sounds kind of like bad, like, oh, you're not following it for the person, but think about it. We all consume media for whatever our purposes are for consuming that media, and one of my purposes for following a lot of these influencers is for style. I've unfollowed a lot of these people because I just can't relate to them anymore, and I don't mean that in a bad way. And I've been watching Amena for 10 years. Another huge influencer that recently, I think last year maybe, took off her hijab was Dina Tokyo, and the internet was also afire when that happened. And I can say for certain that I still follow Dina on a couple platforms, but I've kind of just slowly trickled off watching her content because I don't really relate to her in the same way anymore, and that makes me feel a little bit sad for her, because she's losing us as a base, as people who she can probably still feel like she relates to, even if we no longer feel like we relate to her 100%. So obviously I feel sad because I do wish that these girls who are, on the slow path of taking off their hijab, I wish that they did feel comfortable enough to keep wearing hijab. But I also understand, like I said, that it's everybody's decision how they want to practice their religion, and you can't force anybody else into doing that. And I always think that every time somebody is forced to wear hijab, I have never seen a single time that has worked out well. Even, people that I've seen online in forums for hijabis have said, I want to wear hijab for Allah. I feel good about wearing hijab for Allah, but every time I think about the fact that I started wearing hijab because my parents forced me into it, it makes me feel bad and resentful. And I wish that people would stop trying to force people who are uncomfortable into keeping on wearing hijab in a certain way, or just simply taking a lot of joy in abusing them once they've stopped wearing hijab. But another thing that I kind of wanted to address is why I think that this is happening, why I think that there is a trend of social media figures or influencers taking off their hijab. And I wanted to say that, first of all, some of the biggest people that we know them as the biggest people because they are involved in fashion. Fashion is a huge industry. It's a huge industry in the Muslim community, and I converted at a time where Muslim fashion really was in its infancy as far as being online. Muslim online shopping was horrendous. It was horrible. You couldn't find almost anything online. There was really sketchy looking websites that you could order like underscarves from, or like prayer rugs, and there was some websites that you could order atrocious abayas from. I remember when the first burkinis were released, they looked like garbage bags. And now there is like endless options almost compared to then. And now these people who are so big for fashion in the Muslim community, it's because they're filling a void that we've never had in this community, where hijabis are going, I want to feel good about what I'm wearing, that I want to represent my religion, I want to do this for the sake of Allah, but I also want to look good and I want to feel happy while I'm doing so. And again, I don't think that there's any problem with that. That's how I feel about it. These influencers that were hijabis were filling this void that we never had. And quite a few of these people, like Amena, started making their own stores to meet this need. And that's how these people started building up this following. And going back to talking about why this is important to people removing the hijab, is that I think that there's a culture that's more highly associated with fashion of always wanting to look good. And I want to be careful about what I say here, because as a hijabi, you see photos of girls who don't wear hijab. And you're like, I would really like to go outside looking like that sometimes. Let's be honest. Not everybody wants to be in hijab outside all the time. I don't, but I wear it because I think that I should. Doesn't mean that I personally want to wear hijab, but I want to for the sake of God. But does it look nice to go out in a little sundress or earrings where you can see all of my ears and you can see all of my hair and stuff? Of course people want to look beautiful and pretty. And what do we say to hijabis in our community? We say, dress up at home, look beautiful for your husband. And, you know, I love to dress up at home, and I try to dress up nicely at home, but there's a difference between getting that attention that makes you feel good as a woman only inside the house and getting it outside as well. And I'm not just talking about men. Like, I'm not talking about the sexualizing gaze of men. I'm just talking about people in general. But it also has an effect on your self-esteem when not just men, but also women, we're giving you more compliments, and, you know, you're feeling pretty because you look like everybody else, you're up on the current trends, and then you start wearing hijab and boom, nobody cares anymore, nobody calls you pretty. You know, and I'm exaggerating a little bit when I say that, obviously, but there is a huge difference, okay? And to say that it doesn't make women feel good to get compliments and, you know, to feel good. And again, I'm not talking about the male gaze. I'm not talking about the male gaze, by the way. because women mostly dress for other women, by the way, that it feels good to look good. And that's simply the truth. And you can look good as a hijabi, but in the eyes of general society, especially when you live in the West, there is absolutely nothing you can do to be exactly as pretty as everybody else when you're wearing a hijab. Are we being honest or are we not being honest? Because again, that goes to how does society view hijabis? How does society look at us? And when you're so involved in fashion, I feel like it's a lot easier to slip into that, to go, well, you know, if I never wanted to, like, I never thought about wearing my hijab before where, like, you know, all of my hair here and my ears are showing and my neck, but, like, you know, it looks so much cuter. Girl, I think that that looks so much cuter, but I think that when you're involved in fashion and you have all of these followers and all of this pressure to always be looking good, that it kind of leads you down that path of wanting to take off your hijab beyond all of the normal reasons that people take off of their hijab. I think that fashion, being in that industry, being a social media influencer in that sphere kind of leads to that. People want to keep going for more and keep going for more, and you know, they love that praise. They love the fact that they're feeling beautiful, that, you know, other people really, I guess, care about them and are praising them. And I think that it can, social media can become intoxicating. And again, I'm not saying that as a thing against social media. I'm not saying that against however somebody decides to wear their hijab. And I'm saying that because I feel a lot of these ways. I would love to have people think that I'm beautiful, or to, you know, have a huge following of people that think that I'm just gorgeous, or, you know, the greatest and whatever. Everybody has those kind of like ego dreams about themselves. But, you know, to me, there's things that are more important than that. And I hate putting a judgment on these girls because it's incredibly hard to wear hijab. It's incredibly hard if you live in a Western country. I think that people want to fit in, and that people want to feel beautiful in the society that they're in. And it's hard. Anyway, that is my thoughts on the recent trend that I see about people taking off hijab gradually. I want to know what you think about it in the comments below about people taking off their hijab. Do you think that, you know, what do you think are the reasons behind this almost like trend of a bunch of people deciding to take off hijab, including some of these top YouTubers like Amena or Dina Tokyo? What did you think about her video? I'd be really curious about what you think, or about some of the comments about it. Leave me a comment below. I am really interested to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of this video. I appreciate all of your comments and views and things that you guys say to me week after week. I read all of your comments, and I hope that I will be seeing you again around here next week. Thank you so much for watching, and assalamu alaikum.